In this video, we're going to dive into talking about energy as one of the languages that our inner guidance is using to communicate with us. And we're going to start with energy because this is kind of an obvious one. I've not yet met anyone who isn't tuned into or aware of their energy. It's something that we kind of can't ignore, right? So, we're going to talk about energy in the way of what gives us energy and what drains our energy. What we're usually pretty aware of is that when we have some activity that we really love to do, even the mere thought that we get to do it starts to give us energy. We can rise to the occasion even if we're physically tired. And that when there's something on the docket that we're going to do that drains our energy, it's almost like it starts draining before we even get there, before we're even doing it. Or if we say yes to something we don't enjoy, it can wipe us out for days if we're really sensitive to that. So, energy is a huge way that your inner guidance is trying to tell you, yes, this is what we want you to be moving towards. Or it's telling us, no, this isn't what you should be doing. We want you to move away. So, how we're going to do this is an exercise that we do called Fill the Cup. And as I was saying in the last video, this is one of the lower level languages of the inner guidance system, and it's a pretty easy one to tune into. So you might be thinking, well, what's the big deal? Well, in this exercise, we're going to go into using energy and analyze it to try to discover more of what our inner guidance is trying to tell us. And we're going to make some changes in your life based on what it's trying to tell you, some courageous changes. So, what we want to first think about is the overview of this exercise is we're going to look at the main things that you do in your life, the main activities, the work activities, the social activities, the home activities. And we're going to start to measure which ones are giving you energy and which ones are draining your energy. I'm sure some of you are already having things pop in your mind, but bear with us for a minute. So we're going to measure these things by when something gives us the energy or not giving us energy. So when something feeds your spirit, you may walk away with a ton of new energy and inspiration, or it may simply just give you a balanced feeling of restoration. So on the far right, we've got this full cup, right? This thing just fills us up. And we, at the bottom line, it's something that does good for us. It feeds us. Even if you physically or mentally get tuckered out from it, it leaves you with a sense of fulfillment. So exercise might be one for some. I know Michael just loves running. If he's not running, I don't think his cup can ever get full. Things like that is what we're going to say is on the ends of fills my cup. When something feels neutral, it just is what it is. So many routine tasks that come up in your life, you may do on autopilot, not really thinking too much about them. It's not really an issue. It's not really maybe giving you a ton of energy, but it's also not draining you. So there's really beauty in holding a place of acceptance and neutrality for these kinds of tasks, letting them be an ongoing part of how you support yourself and how you create balance in the life that you've built, or how you maintain your happiness and your contentment in your business. So the non-negotiables sometimes fall under here. Things like just keeping your house tidied up or maintaining your emails, whatever it is for you that is just a neutral. A good example for me is doing dishes. I really don't mind doing dishes. Some people I know it is the absolute thing that destroys them. It causes them anger and resentment, and it just frustrates the heck out of them, and they have a hard time keeping up with them. It truly does drain their cup. For myself, it's just a pretty neutral thing. And I know there are those people out there that even enjoy it, that really love that whole part of the cooking process, is the washing the dishes with the warm water. So it's so personal to you and only you know, and it's really an intuitive thing. Then we're going to go to when something drains us and how to discover that. And I know I don't really need to explain this because I'm sure every single person listening kind of knows what I'm talking about, but it's when it's taking energy away from you. And you may get that sense that what you have to do feels out of alignment somehow with your truth, with your values, or that even though the task shouldn't seem so difficult, it still seems like it's taking so much energy, like dishes, right? It shouldn't be so hard, but it really just gets you. And I think it's really important that you honor that and pay attention to that. So, this is the way your inner guidance is starting to tell you to move towards or away from something and starting to give us messages about what we should add more of in our life or start to eliminate in our life. It's very important to pay attention. We all know this, but it's hard to believe and very hard to honor, especially for those mamas out there. So it's worth putting this in here. You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first. And if you think about it, if you're in this course, one of the reasons is because you truly do feel like you have a purpose to live. You have a duty to your tribe to go out there and make an impact in the world. And as you really step into your role as a practitioner or as a leader or as a thought leader and influencer, this has to be mastered. I have never met someone who really can go out there and make a huge impact without honoring this cup. Okay, so this has to be mastered. It will at some point, so you may as well start now. It is the only way you can go out there and serve in the way that you do. So this exercise is going to be foundational for you. Okay, so before I go to that, I just want to talk a little bit more about excuses that we have for accepting things into our life that we don't love, right? So, a common excuse for accepting a life that's out of alignment with your inner guidance is to tell yourself that you have to be sensible. This question always comes up. And we tell ourselves, like, we can't just goof off and have fun all day. This is true. And this exercise is not to tell you to stop cleaning your toilets or quit paying your bills. It's simply to observe and to begin to manage your energy with more awareness. So that's part of our point of this. We're not going to tell you to stop everything in your life that drains you. But the first step in this is to just think about this as energy management, right? So as we go through the schedule, it's going to be about recognizing when something's on my plate that really drains my energy. Maybe I ought to put some other things in there that fills my cup so I don't get too exhausted. And we'll start to pay attention as you're building your schedule on your energy levels. So let's dive into this. This is how your worksheet in your workbook is going to look. On the left-hand side, you're going to make your list: washing dishes, going out with friends, hanging with a like-minded group, seeing clients, marketing. These are some of the examples I have down here. Before you start to fill out what drains you, neutral, fills you, we're going to have you just make your list. And here's an example for you of making it a detailed list. So we don't want to just put broad categories like socializing, right? Because there's different levels of socializing. For example, if I am hanging out with my book club, oh my gosh, it fills my cup. I need to do that on a regular basis to just remember who I am and connect with my women and feel really good. I also have groups of friends that sometimes like to go downtown, stay out late, and this takes so much energy from me. It usually wipes me out for an entire day or two. Um, Different types of parties can wipe me out, right? So we need to get specific with these different areas of your life. I also think that getting specific with the different roles in your job is a great thing to do. So as much as you can break down the roles that you have within your job, it's a great process and a great exercise to just get more information. Once we have this information, what do we want to do with it? Well, like I just said, one thing we want to do is start to have you manage your energy, right? So if there's so much going on that really drains you, you know it's a tough week, we want to make sure you're adding things in that are going to fill you up. The second level is that it's easy to get caught in your learned patterns of thinking about responsibilities and sacrifice. So you may even think that work is really hard, or that hard work is what makes you worthy. And one thing that we can start to do if we can't stop paying our bills or if we can't totally stop going out with friends is start to change our energy about it. So, just for clarification, sometimes it's about making shifts in our schedule and saying no to things because our inner guidance is saying, this is not what I should be doing. And sometimes it's about really shifting our mindset around it. If it's something that we have to do, let's challenge ourselves to come up with a mindset that doesn't drain our energy or shifts us a little bit. So, the first level of this, like I said, is managing your energy, figuring out what you can do, what you can change, figuring out what you can do to add more energy in. The second layer that we would love to see you do and are going to challenge you to do at the end of this next week is to start to eliminate some of the things that drain your energy. So if I'm looking in the drains me category and there's some things that, man, I can just feel they're hot, they're alive in me, I want you to start to think about what can you do to eliminate those things in your life. One of the women that I had do this did this exercise and it made her aware of how much cleaning her house was like above and beyond a drain for her. So she did this exercise, and her husband said, hey, if it's that big of a deal, it is worth having a house cleaner. And so, since this, I think it's been 5 years now, they've hired a house cleaner, and it's freed up so much energy for her to just be a better person and to have a lot less stress in her life. So we'll start to have you eliminate some of these things, or maybe it's a matter of setting boundaries. So going out with friends is one example I have on here. I have owned and realized in my life that that's a drain for me, and I'm talking about certain ways of going out and things like that, but I've learned it's a drain for me. So it's not that I don't do it anymore, it's that I put a lot of boundaries around it. And if I know that's a plan for the weekend, I'm probably not going to do a lot of other socializing as well because I'm just going to reach my limit, right? What I'd love to get people to the level of with the fill the cup exercise, and this might be more of the advanced level or as you start to grow, is that you start to live a life where you raise the bar and things that drain your energy are no longer really acceptable in your life. And this is the goal I want you to think about getting towards. I'm going to give you an example. And this is a fun example because for whatever reason, I was really doing this exercise a lot in my life. And I had an accident where I had a dog actually run me over and it broke my leg and it broke my arm on impact. And I was in bed rest for 3 weeks. So, because they couldn't even put the bones back together, I had to just hold so still for the bones in my arm to fuse. So, what happened was at the time, I had been doing some chair massage out at a business that was full of these avionic engineers, which I actually really adore engineers. I love how their brain works. But it was so draining for me to go do massage for them once a month because chair massage just didn't feel good on my body. And it was really bizarre. But all of them, even though they showed up each month, would constantly challenge me that massage was good for the body or that it did anything. It was really funny. But anyway, this totally drained me, and I knew it drained me, But it was a constant paycheck once a month, easy $500. It's like, why wouldn't I show up and do that, right? So the logical brain was overriding my energetic intuition. So when I broke my arm and leg, I obviously couldn't do that anymore. I had to break. And I told them, well, I'll call you when I'm better. And when I started to become better, what I realized in such a clear way is, if we use the cup analogy, is that even though that job was just once a month for about 3 hours, it was like the fact that I allowed it to be in my life and I allowed it to be in my schedule was like a constant hole in my cup. Even just a pinhole, just a little hole. But it was constantly draining me, just knowing that next month I'd have to go again. And as the date got closer, I'd feel a little bit more, oh man, dread, here it comes. And then that week when I'd see it on my calendar, I'd just already feel exhausted for the whole week. That's how much it was draining me. So even though I got better, I just was so clear that my life had more energy not having that as a part of it. And I was able to let it go. So that's the ultimate way that we want to get to when we think about filling our cup. So we have this exercise in your workbook. We're going to have you go through and do it and just see what awarenesses come up. And we want you to pay attention throughout the week. And as you go through, we're going to challenge you to let go of at least 1 to 3 things that is heavily draining you in your life, and make some decisions, figure out how you can get out of it or outsource it or give it to someone else to do. The next exercise that we're going to have you do is something called your ideal schedule exercise. And the directions are in the book, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. But once you're aware with what fills your cup and you've done this exercise and you've got the energy around it, we're going to have you do a schedule with your ideal life. And this is a life where your entire day and your entire week, all the things in your life are consisting of only the things that absolutely fill your cup. And we encourage you to do this a couple times just to get out of your own way, out of your head, and really experience the power that this allows you to design a life that maybe you haven't thought of yet. The last thing we're going to have you start doing this week is called the connection with self meditation. Now, this meditation is just like this energy exercise, very basic level work, and something that I find to be still the most valuable to this day. I do the connection with self meditation every single morning. And when I miss it for a few days and then I come back to it, it's almost like my inner self is like, oh my gosh, where have you been? It's so impactful. And with the connection with self meditation, you'll be guided through. You probably will only have to listen to the guided meditation a few times. And what we want you to do is add this into your morning routine, 5 minutes every morning. But then anytime you're in a situation throughout the day that feels a little vulnerable or you feel unclear, you feel like you're starting to let that focus go externally or outside of yourself, you're starting to feel like you're lacking boundaries, you're just going to put your hands on your heart and take a few deep breaths, reconnecting to self. Again, it won't come natural maybe the first couple times, but just give it a week or two and you'll get the hang of this. In your practice, last week we worked on the awareness meditation. If you feel ready to let that go and replace it with this one, feel free to do that. All right, please put comments below. Let us know how it's going. And we'd love to hear in the Facebook group some of your awarenesses about either of these exercises or some of your awarenesses about this new meditation. We will see you soon and wish you the best, most energetic week.